it's a weird feeling to be not surprised, but also be disappointed. I think my favorite thing is like we've talked lots about the absolutely critical infrastructure, the Cook Strait ferries, and I see that there is something in there about the Cook Strait ferries. $600,000 for a tug for when they break down.
Yep.
Well, that was stunning to me.
So inside this document, and I can highly recommend you all try and get a copy. It's the Budget Economic and Fiscal Update, which is the actual budget document released today. At the back of the document, we have a thing called specific fiscal risks. Now, these are things where the government doesn't know the overall cost, but we do know that they might happen. And if they do happen, they will cost us a lot of money.
Right.
And in transport, you can see the fact that we now have an IREX specific fiscal risk, which says that essentially we're about to spend a huge amount of money on 3 new replacement ferries, second-hand ferries,
if we're lucky,
which don't exist.
Yeah, that's right. If we're lucky, because where are you getting them from? Because there's nowhere in the. I think Chewy, you said this once. There's something like 12 of these ferries that exist that would work in the Cook Strait. All of them are currently owned and used by other people, so there are no second-hand ones on the market. Yeah,
and because of the gauge that we use for our railway, none of them will take rail freight. So the freight arrives, has to be taken off the carriages onto trucks, put on the ferry, then across the strait, put back onto rail again. It's enormously inefficient, and it's just that's the level of short-term thinking that we've got.
And so we're going to do that.
It's critical infrastructure. It's never going to get any cheaper, and they've flubbed it.
Yep. And at the same time, we're going to emit more carbon because these are less efficient ferries. We have the less capacity to actually take things across the Cook Strait. That makes everything more expensive to shift. And we have to find land on either side of the Cook Strait to do all of the shifting from rail to lorry to put onto the ferry. I don't know how well you know Wellington, gentlemen. There isn't a lot of spare space around there. So it's a real risk, but it's kind of indicative of the kind of, I guess, the main theme of this budget. The main theme of this budget is this: the government has delivered its wants. It wants to deliver a tax cut. It wants to cut government spending, but it hasn't delivered what New Zealanders need. And what New Zealanders need is investment in health, investment in education, investment in transport, investment in the water infrastructure, investment in a whole range of things. Education operations grants, that's the main funding that funds our education system. That's going up by less than inflation. Tertiary education funding is going up by less than inflation.
So it's going backwards.
In March, the Ministry of Health told the Health Select Committee that the amount of money which has now been given to the Ministry of Health for health services was not enough for inflation. And yet it's given that amount of money. So we're going backwards in all of the key areas. And if you want to look at some of the other indicators, we're going backwards there. Unemployment's going to rise by 47,000 since this government has taken office. We're going to be spending billions more on welfare programs because there'll be more people unemployed. Child poverty indicators are all heading now in the wrong direction. There's many things wrong with this budget, and none of the things that it's doing are tackling the things that are wrong. They're tackling the political itches of the political parties who run the government today.
The thing about the rail going onto the ferries, etc., meaning it'll be more expensive to ship goods, move goods, means that it'll be more expensive to buy goods. So in other words, the person who will pay for that extra cost is the consumer. But I guess if you're a pensioner, that's fine because they've given you $4.50 back a week. So you'll be sweet. So I'm sure you can cover the extra cost of your products moving because you've got a whole $4.50 a week coming back to you. Fantastic.
Well, you've actually got $2.25 each. So, because it's $4.50 per household. So, if you can fight amongst you who gets the $4.50, you may well have enough for that, that packet of chewing gum or whatever it is that you're going to get for the loaf of bread. That's going to make that difference.
The other thing is, as you guys are talking, and I'm not trying to be a prophet of doom here, but as soon as someone gets seriously injured or dies or something happens on one of those ferries that they haven't replaced, then all hell will break loose. But it does actually make me think about the budget as well, and all of us going, okay, so that pensioner's got their $2.25 back per week, but now we're not going to fund 13 cancer drugs that we promised we would fund. So these people who are getting between sort of $10 and $20 a week back in society, great. Two new loaves of bread, I'm sure that'll make it, unless you've got kids getting on public transport, then that all goes. And because you guys have got that back, you know, more people dying from cancer or more people not being able to extend their lives to see their kids grow up. That's the active choice this government has made in this budget.
And that's exactly the right word, is choice.
Yeah.
Look, everything inside the budget is a choice. And one of the things you do is you demonstrate your values through the choices that you make. We're choosing to spend more money on security guards in hospitals than we are training new doctors and nurses. So there are plenty of things where we go, is this really the choice we want for the country? Is this really what we want to say? We're spending $3 billion, as we know, on landlords at the same time as we're actively cutting the amount of money going into state housing.
Yeah.
We're choosing different and bad outcomes. And it's not as if it's not as if there's no other choice. There are other choices that could be made that are better.
Yeah. And look, I mean, to his credit, Chris Bishop said, we've made some tough choices, like in his previous few media appearances, but then they're not being challenged on those tough choices. They're not being challenged on, you know, we've all seen the story last week on the news on the mum with the solo mum with kids trying to buy her first house, missed out on the grant now. And so Bishop is saying, yeah, no, we're making hard choices, but they're not actually then addressing this person who's now going to have to wait for another year or two to save up more, by which she'll be priced out of the market because of house prices going up. So yeah, they're making choices, but like we all make choices every single day. The choices they're making are literally life and death for some people. Literally, not exaggerating, not using hyperbole, are literally life and death for some people.
Yep. And if you want to look at choices, I'm using so this is the government's own tax at a glance document, which are produced alongside the budget today, and it lists some sample families. A working couple where both adults both earn $150,000 per annum will receive in personal income tax changes $2,085 a year.
So $50, $45 a week.
A week. That pensioner couple are getting $4.50 between them.
So hang on, that's $300,000 income for a house. And this is the whole point about those at the top are going to do quite well. I think Chloe said something like, let them eat cake at the top and those at the bottom getting crumbs if they're lucky. So the people who need the money most of all are getting nothing or next to nothing. Beneficiary is nothing. The people who don't need the money, $300,000 income to your household, they're getting a little, you know, here's another bottle of wine for you a week.
And that's just the income tax changes. That doesn't include the changes to interest deductibility for anyone who owns a rental property, the bright line test in terms of being able to sell rental property and not pay income tax on it. There's a whole range of other tax changes that, again, benefit those with assets, benefit those with income. And so the system is, again, more and more skewed. Rather than being, you know, Treasury and the Reserve Bank and the Inland Revenue like to think of New Zealand as having a broad-based, low-rate taxation system. We have anything but that. We actually have a relatively high income tax system if you earn a living, and a very generous taxation system if you don't. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, there's a bunch of people who are doing lovely super chats. They're doing this from Gold. Here's my tax cut. Thanks, Gold. Appreciate the $20 super chat. Kiwi Skirt. Here's my tax cut. $20.50. Thanks, Kiwi Skirt. Late fee, and you can have my $18 tax cut. Thank you, Tim. You're being very generous. I got there to have a look around to see. We've got some questions for Craig, and they're just people giving us their tax cuts. Very nice. Here's another one. Ruru, $20.05. Pat and Chewy, here's my weekly tax cut. Chewy, I think that Porsche might be coming in the driveway if we keep getting people giving us their tax cuts like this every week.
I actually have a counter view here, Pat. I think we might be getting stiffed. Which tax calculator are they using? Are they using the pre-election one? Or are they using the one that they put up yesterday? Because there is a little bit of difference there. I saw this pop up on Reddit. So someone's chucked in the same details, and there's suspicious little difference there.
So the left-hand side is pre-election $50.75. The right-hand side is the one now. So it's $12 difference, almost exactly $12 difference.
And the reason for that may well be the Working for Families changes, which were then abandoned by National on taking office. So it may well be that actually those changes, are making that difference in that space. But overall, I think the interesting thing there is that person still has an image of the National Party tax calculator. We know that 2-3 days before the budget, they removed their tax calculator from online, so you can't actually do that calculation. So it sort of again speaks to the lack of honesty and integrity in conversations around tax and in conversations about what's really in this budget for people.